Hello and welcome to DynamicsCon. Thank you everyone for voting for our session. Today we're going to be presenting to you virtual entities and the power of the common data service. My name is Rachel Profitt. I'm a Microsoft Senior Fast Track Solution Architect with more than 19 years of experience with Dynamics 365. And I'll go ahead and let Aurelien introduce himself.
Hello everyone, welcome to DynamicsCon. So yeah, I'm happy to do this session with Rachel. So yeah, I'm Aurelien, Clere. I'm living in France, in Paris, and I'm working on Agile consulting in France. Yeah, I'm also Microsoft MVP on business application from June 2020. So yeah, very recent. And yeah, I'm specialized and working a lot on finance operation parts, and also behind that a lot of also on the common data service. So yeah, happy to do this session for you. So let's go and let's jump into this.
Great, thanks so much. So taking a look at what we're going to cover in today's session, we're going to start out by just introducing you to what the new virtual entities feature is all about. Then we're going to talk about a couple of use cases where you can leverage those virtual entities with the Power Platform, including Power Apps and Power Automate. Then Aurelien is going to do a demo of the supply chain template, and we're going to talk about virtual entities as compared to dual write and the data integrator. Then you're going to see another demo on how to extend the templates that are provided out of the box. And we'll talk a little bit about the application lifecycle management for your virtual entities and see a final demo on the ALM for virtual entities. So with that, let's go ahead and dig right in. So taking a look at the current state of the Power Platform, many of you have probably seen this graphic or this image before, but you know, we've got that Dynamics FinOps connector that sits outside of the Power Platform today. And so if we want to use the functionality and the features in the Power Platform, such as Power Apps, Power Automate, the AI Builder, Power Virtual Agents, Power BI, and so on, we either have to use dual write, the data integrator, or the FinOps connector that's available inside of the common data service. But as we look forward to the future, the idea of virtual entities is that we're bringing all of your finance and operations data right inside of the common data service. So with the new virtual entities, 99% of your data will now be available directly inside of the common data service. All of your public OData entities will now be available. And this means that you can now leverage the power of the platform and create apps, BI, automate flows, use the AI Builder, Power Virtual Agents, and so much more without needing to actually copy or duplicate your data into the common data service. So let's take a look a little bit closer at what these virtual entities are. Virtual entities play an eminent role wherein the business requirement is just to reflect the data in the common data service from any of your external systems without having to occupy any physical space in the common data service database. With virtual entities, you can connect directly with an external data source at runtime, so the specific data from those external data sources is available in an environment without the need for data replication. The CRUD operations are allowed. So with the previous deployment of virtual entities that were just in the common data service, those CUD updates were not allowed. But now with the new finance and operations virtual entities in the common data service, those create, read, update, and delete operations are now allowed. So setting the stage for the Power Platform, a couple things that are worth noting. So all of your finance and supply chain management OData entities are natively available in the common data service as these virtual entities. It does require that that public flag be selected on the entity. So if you're extending finance and operations and developing a new entity, only the public entities will be available as virtual. Those CRUD operations, create, read, update, delete, are allowed in the common data service. virtual entities for finance and supply chain management. We're also allowing synchronous execution of business logic that sits inside of finance and supply chain management. In other words, when I create or I insert a record into a table, the business logic of that OData entity is still going to be executed, just as if you were inserting that record directly into finance and operations. With the new Common Data Service virtual entities and all of our data being in the Common Data Service, it's providing us consistent behavior across all of the Power Platform and the finance and supply chain management features. It's important to note that the feature does not actually copy or store the data. It's actually querying that data. And we'll take a look at that architecture in a little bit and talk about that in more detail. You'll still need to use data integration or dual write for specific scenarios. So it will continue to address those scenarios where you actually need the data to be physically copied between applications. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at the architecture. The Virtual Entities plugin translates the entity names. You can see that Virtual Entities plugin here on the left side in the Common Data Service. So it translates those entity names into the finance and operations public entity and field names based on the metadata. It also translates some well-known concepts like company into native CDS references. The Common Data Service Virtual Entity Adapter Service is a custom web API that translates the CDS query expression into a query build data source, common, buffer, and so on, and then back into the entity collection or entity reference within finance and operation. So when the standard flag is set to is public yes, those entities are supported. Persistence goes through the standard persistence stack, meaning that methods on the backing tables are executed, and eventually those records would be inserted into the database in your SQL server or your Azure SQL. It's important to note as well, while I'm here on this slide, that the CRUD updates, there's actually 6 operations that are supported. We have the create, retrieve, retrieve multiple, update, delete, and the perform action. Perform action is what allows us to execute OData actions that exist on those entities inside of finance and operations. So let's switch gears and talk a little bit about some use cases for Power Automate. It's important to note that right now with Power Automate, it currently only supports inbound scenarios. In other words, I can use those entities to create, read, or update records, but there are no triggers on virtual entities. And this is because the virtual entities do not support change tracking. So the screenshot that you see here on the right is the actions, and these are the actions that we talked about just a little bit ago. Another important thing to note is that on our roadmap, we do have business events coming soon for the Common Data Service, which will allow us to have triggers and support those inbound scenarios. But for now, in what's been publicly released already, we just have outbound scenarios for triggers. But you can still perform actions and do inbound operations based on something else. Your trigger would just need to come from either a business event specifically in finance and operations, or a trigger from one of the 300 plus connectors that are available with the Power Platform. So you can use Power Automate to update a record or call an OData action when something happens externally. So for example, if I have a system that sits outside of finance and operations, whether that be some sort of retail system or a project contract system or a manufacturing execution or quality system as an example, when I could use those as my trigger. So when something happens there in this other system, I want to go find and update the record inside of finance and operations. And you can do that by using the Common Data Service connector and selecting any of those virtual entities that exist in the Common Data Service. Another example is to read or get data from the CDS. So let's say you need to mash up some data in between applications, whether that be your finance and operations data and your customer engagement data, or your finance and operations data along with some other third party. By creating a Power Automate flow, I can read and get that data directly from that Common Data Service to use in downstream steps or processes. You also have the ability to create records when something happens. So again, that trigger would have to be triggered either by a business event like an alert, a workflow, or a custom business event in finance and operations, or the trigger would have to come from a third party, one of those 300 plus connectors that are available out of the box today. Now let's take a look at what we can do with Power Apps and virtual entities. With Power Apps, we have three different major types of apps that we can develop. The first is Canvas apps. So thinking of a few examples that we could use Canvas apps, the first one is an employee referral program. So for example, there's no functionality in Dynamics 365 Human Resources for employee referrals. But in order to have an employee referral program, I likely need my worker data, for example, from Dynamics 365 Human Resources. So using those virtual entities, I can surface that data into the Common Data Service and build a Canvas app right on top of it. Some other examples are customer onboarding and credit applications that your salespeople might complete while they're out in the field or traveling around to your various customer sites. Or another example is the ability to enter quality test results. Let's say, for example, the user interface inside of finance and operations is maybe not very user-friendly for your quality management staff. You could build a Canvas app that surfaces that data out in a new UI that you build in a Canvas app without needing to copy the data directly to the Common Data Service. Users can then use that app, record the test results, and update those quality orders directly from a Canvas app. Now, talking about some model-driven app examples, we would have the ability to display F&O data inside of customer engagement apps as one example. So for example, like right now, you might need to use dual write or the data integrator to actually copy data from F&O to customer engagement. Let's just use credit information as an example, or invoices. Well, instead of actually copying the data into that model-driven app, we can now use virtual entities and build pages that mash up your regular customer engagement data with your finance and operations data. You could also build purpose-built apps for sales, projects, or field service, for example, as well. Again, where I don't necessarily want my users to be inside of the F&O user interface, but I want to kind of pull that data out and make a new simplified user interface that's much easier to use on a tablet or a cell phone device. Some other examples are Power Apps portals. The customer portal is one great example. There's actually a sample portal that's available out of the box that uses the Common Data Service, Power Apps portals, and F&O data. But you could also build your own vendor portal or employee portal as an example to surface information and allow users that are external to your organization, or even users that are internal to your organization, but maybe for an employee portal example where those users don't normally log into finance and operations. You could surface that data and that information in a portal and give them access and the power of the entire platform. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Aurelien for his demo.
So yes, thank you, Rachel. So yeah, let's now jump in on some demonstrations. So As Rachel said, yeah, of course, we have some templates coming from Microsoft with the supply chain template. So I don't know if you have seen this new features that were coming from maybe 4 or 3 months ago on Power Apps Portal. So this functionality, this feature, it requires dual rights, but as you will see, I will also use CDS virtual entity because this is our session. It's more on CDS virtual entity, but I know that you have normally see some session on dual right on DynamicsCon. So yeah, hopefully you will have a good picture of where and why you have to choose dual right or CDS virtual entity. Sorry. So, of course, on Portal, on Power Apps Portal, you can use, internally, because it's not mandatory, of course, to share it to the world externally. But on Power Apps Portal, you can also handle anonymous access. So of course, like supply chain management portal with dual right, it's more on B2B, B2B purpose. It's not for B2C because for B2C, you have Dynamics 365 Commerce Portal. So yeah, you will see that, of course, for Apps Portal, it's the main goal of the Power Platform is really to do a deploy fast web portal and easy to customize it, like a Power Apps Canva apps or modern data applies. So yeah, it's a very good start with a pre-existing template because it's just to avoid to start from scratch with a blank Power Apps Portal. So it's a really great feature. So yeah, as you can see, I am on the Power Apps, Power Apps Portal. So I can have some templates, as you can see. When I want to create a new application, we have some models, some templates that you can use. And of course, you have the customer portal template. So here you can set up quickly your portal. But be careful, of course, as I said, you will need for this one the dual right activated for some data entities like sales order, like product, like account, to be able to use it without any problem. Okay. On my side, I've created a new Power Apps portal, like you can see, virtual entity here. Of course, as you can see, you can really, as I suggest you as a best practice, you can, if in fact you create a trial for Apps Portal. So of course, even if you are on a proof of concept project or starting to, on your side, to analyze, to check, to train, you can of course activate the CDS virtual entity side and set up technically on a sandbox for finance operation part, and of course create a trial portal in order to, of course, to analyze and use it and start it to check if it's a good opportunity for you. The license, I think we will not cover this part for the license of Power Apps Portal, but it's not free, of course. But yeah, the license is not very very high. So yeah, I suggest to. Yeah, I will not cover, and do a session only on Power Apps Portal. You have a great community on MVP and other community sites. So you have a lot of content about Power Apps Portal only. So if you want to check how to customize it, how to build a good Power Apps Portal, I suggest, of course, to go to their blog, to the session. They have there are a lot of events on Power Apps Portal. So yeah, go to check this event.
And we've put together a variety of links for you that will be available on the last slide in the deck.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Rachel. So I will not also cover the setup, the technical setup of. So on my side, I already activated, so you can check my blog for that. Also, like Rachel said, you will have all the link on the PowerPoint at the end, so you can go to the resource and check on your own. So when you want to create a new Power Apps Portal, so this is an example. It's based on the template, so it's just a start to build your own portal. Of course, It's based on CSS, HTML, JavaScript. You can even create, I think, liquid template if you want to go deeper on the customizing your Power Apps portal. Yeah. So of course, here I am on the Power Apps portal directly, but I can, of course, go there and click on Edit. On this side, you will see that I am on the editor side, and I have like a WYSIWYG. I can drag and drop and create new components. Yeah, so it's really great. You can, like this here, you have your tree of every page. You have also your components here. You have also here your CSS. So if you want to customize your CSS, and you have some templates, you know. So here I have done some, so I have created 2 pages. If I go here, yeah, new pages. So on every page, you can, of course, add a list like me. You will have the ability to create a list, a component list, where you can add, of course, your virtual entities. Remember, on the virtual entities is on read-only. Huh? You can't create a new data based on virtual entity. For that, you will need dual write. So if you want to create a portal internally or externally just to show data based on your ERP, really the CDS virtual entity can really be the good opportunity for you. So let me just to show you how I can build quickly a new pages like this. So I will create a new page. Before I can show you how I can activate a new virtual entity. So I can go directly to my CDS, Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement instance, where I can click on Advanced Settings like this. So you can do that when you have done, you know, the setup, the technical setup. And you have now, you will have, when you will import and do the setup, you will import some Microsoft solution on your CDS. And with that, you can have like this. When I click on result on available finance operation entities, it will ask, as Rachel has showed you before, it will ask finance operation instance to be able to see all data entities, even of course your custom one, because as you know, you can build a new custom data entity, or even extend the Microsoft one to add your custom field. So it takes some time to see the, like me, the 2000 data entities. Of course, I can really do like the advancing file function. You can, like me, I will like this. I will maybe add like release product because I want to, I know, not this one. If I check on release only, if I want to activate, you know, the CDS virtual entities of release product. So I think I have no, yeah, like this maybe. So if I click on it now, you will have the ability to check and activate, because by default, of course, you will have to manually activate the checkbox visible to yes. Otherwise, the virtual entity will not be visible on your CDS. So you click on visible, you click on save and close, and now the virtual entities will be created. It will ask finance operation and do do the translation. As Rachel said, you have some data types that are not the same between finance operation and the common data service. Like the rec ID, the record ID, you don't have the same. You have an ID, but in the different way on CDS. I don't know, but on the Microsoft documentation, also on the resources, you have the good documentation that show you what is the translation, you know, between finance operation data type, and CDS data type. So I can now close it. Yes, because normally if I go back to my props, yeah, I will go. I can check the entities now. And if I click on all, normally, if I search on product, maybe product, yeah, now I have my virtual entity on my CDS. So if I click on it, so you will see that you have a MS ERP as a prefix. Of course, you can't change it, the prefix of the solution, it's by default. And you will see that you have all field now. So the same field as finance operation. So yeah, on this one, since it's the product, you have a lot of fields. But yeah, and it will generate, I think, one basic forms. Yeah, the main one, and I think one basic view. The same, you know, when you create a new entity on CDS, you just have this kind of view and forms by default. But you will see just after, I can, of course, customize it. So if I go back now on my portal, so yes, now I am on the Power Apps portal. So I have did the list component. So now if I click on entity, I can really go to add the release product v2. So, you know, the same one as the one that I activated just before. So you can put a name, of course, release product. And as I said, you have the view. And yeah, that's it. So it's saved, you know, automatically. But remember, on Power Apps portal, every time click on sync configuration. Otherwise, you will not see your change on your portal. So don't forget to do that. So now, if I go back and refresh my portal, so as I said, you have just one basic forms and one basic view on my virtual entities by default. So this is, of course, the aim would be, of course, to customize it, because as you can see, I have just the item number. So not really great to display this kind of thing, but of course, this will be the part on the extending just after. A quick demonstration on virtual entities on Power Apps portal. So you have also, we have made for you, like, because it was a real great question. And on my side, when I see this new feature on virtual entities, my main question was that, well, yes, we have the dual right, we have the data integrator part. So how and when I have to use this one and not this one, you know? So this is a really great question. So on virtual entities, yeah, of course, as Rachel has said, you have the data that remains on your original data source. So this is the main and strategic key point, because of course, with the dual right, you will have to copy every data to your CDS, so to replicate your data. So be careful of that, because on finance operation part, you have sometimes a very large volume of data, and yeah, to copy everything to the CDS, not maybe the best architecture, but yeah, at this time, if you need to, yeah. You have the real-time CRUD calls, yeah. So this is a really real-time CRUD, yeah. So when you change something on finance operation, it's really real time. So if a user go to your Power Apps portal, when you display some virtual entities based on your finance operation data, you will see really on real time modification. And yes, it works very well for single action or small transaction. But yeah, be careful, you can't use trench tracking, sorry. So yeah. For the dual write, yes, the data is copied to CDS, as I said. It's a synchronous process. For that, on my side, because I already done on production with a customer a dual write project, and sometimes yeah, it's really not real time. You know, you have to wait maybe 4 or 5 seconds. So yeah, just be careful of that. Yeah, business logic is executed automatically. And for this one, you can use trench tracking. So yeah. For the data integrator, you have the same virtual entities, the same, but for the data integrator, of course, you will have to copy again your data to CDS. For this one, be careful, it's not synchronous, it's asynchronous process. And the business logic lives outside the integrator. Yeah. And for that, like the dual write, you can use trench tracking. But it's very likely for, large volume of data, like a batch data API. So for high volume of transaction. Now you will finish it with some extension, So you will see that on the resources, you will have, if you want to do the setup on your own, you will have 3 solutions: the ERP catalog, the virtual entity support, and the Dynamics 365 company solution. So this is a free solution that you will have to import to your CDS to activate the feature, of course. So for the Dynamics 365, 365 company, of course, it's the aim, the goal to this solution is really to have, the legal entity architecture on your CDS, because as you know, you have the legal entity support to be able to use multiple legal entity on this Dynamics 365 customer engagement. You are more likely, like, an organization hierarchy with business unit, with teams. So this is not the same as the finance operation. So this solution will be, of course, mandatory to handle, every data on the finance operation is based on a legal entity. And you have the 2 other that, of course, activate the support of virtual entity. And of course, like you will see just after on my demonstration, you can, of course, customize it. You can, after, I have activated the release product virtual entity just before. So now I can really create a new unmanaged solution on my CDS to add it, the existing one, add it an existing solution, the virtual entity that was created automatically when I clicked, visible yes true. So I can create like a, new form, new view. And after, based on application lifecycle management, I can after, of course, build a release pipeline with Azure DevOps. So be careful, just one thing, you have only one CDS virtual entity instance per finance operation instance. So one CDS per finance operation instance, okay? So be careful, you will have to, to map every instance of finance operation. Like, I don't know if you have a development instance, like a tier 1 instance on cloud, and you have your CDS environment. You can create, of course, a development environment on your CDS, after a sandbox, a qualify UAT instance to test it, and after, of course, your production. So yeah, be careful. And of course, with an Azure DevOps pipeline, I think you have also seen some session about that on DynamicsCon, about how to build quickly a good pipeline for continuous integration, continuous deployment for finance operation. Of course, for now with Power Platform, we have finally a template for Azure DevOps to really build your solution and deploy it after with Azure DevOps, same as finance operation. So you can have a real Azure DevOps, global Azure DevOps, to build and deploy your code, your data entity, even your custom data entity on finance operation. And of course, same for the custom solutions that I will build for CDS. Okay. So now let's jump again on my Power Platform. So I have created a new solution, as I said. Okay. So I have created a custom virtual entities FNO. Yeah, not the best name, but on this one, I can imagine I am on my, of course, my development CDS side, and I can add an existing entity like this. And of course, I can search the release product. So the same as I have activated before. Okay, I click on next. I click include all component, add. Okay, so now I have my release product virtual entity coming from finance operation on my CDS custom solution. So if I now go to this, so you will see if you don't know really well the CDS, Dynamics CRM, customer engagement part, you will see that, yeah, the development is really more easier than finance operation. But yeah, I can really now change my public view, my default public view. As I don't know if you remember, but on my view, I add only one field, the item number. So if I want to create and add a column, of course, I can create a column like this. I don't know if I have a name, like this one. Yeah. So now I have my local product name. It's better. So yeah, I will not do a very quick, yeah, I will not extend everything. So it's just an example for you, just a demonstration. So of course I have to click on save, not a big deal. And Power Apps Portal, like Power Apps Portal, don't, yeah, remember, click on publish after publish all components. Yeah, CRM developer know this kind of thing, but if you are part on finance operation, maybe you don't know this though. So yeah, now I have published my customization. So now on this CDS, this CDS environment, I have customized my release product. So as you have seen, I have only I do a reference of the release, the virtual entity coming from Microsoft, coming, from the setup. So if I now go back to my portal, maybe I will have to refresh it again. So now I will, of course, I will have to change my view. So I am on the new page 3. New page 3. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah. Like this, new page 3. So now as I change the view, but yeah, it's already changed. Yeah, I was not, yeah, I really wanted to check before, but yeah, it's as you can see, I don't have to change my Power Apps portal. Since I already, reference the view the same as I modified before. So now if I refresh my portal, of course, now it will display the item number and the local product name. So yeah, I think can take some time. So after, of course, as I said, just to finish my demonstration, you will have to, sorry, the name of product is in French because I'm on finance operation instance in France. But yeah, now that I have done, my solution, so now I can go to Azure DevOps, build my solution, export it as a managed solution before importing it on a qualified UAT instance. CDS, same for finance operation.
So we've compiled together a variety of resources that are available. So there's the frequently asked questions page, as well as some information on the solution on AppSource, so how to download that virtual entity solution and get that installed. I do strongly encourage you to check out our virtual entities tech talk, which is coming up very soon. And Aurelien has written a fantastic blog with a lot of great details on how to use the new virtual entities feature. And if you're interested in the new business events feature that is coming soon, you can join the Yammer group for business events. It's part of the Insider program. If you're not already part of the Insider program, you can use that link to go and get signed up. So thank you everyone for joining today's DynamicsCon session on using virtual entities and the power of the Power Platform with finance and operation apps.
Thank you. See you soon. Take care.